Here are 10 more things you must know before buying a home. I recently did a video on the 10 things you must know before buying a home, and overwhelmingly the feedback was positive from people who had bought homes in which their agent had gone over that info with them to people and families gearing up and getting ready to buy a home. My number one comment back was on the flood insurance. One family emailed me and said they had changed the cities they were looking in, potentially saving them thousands of dollars every year. I put a link to the first one in the comment below, or click right here on the screen. Here are 10 more things you must know before buying a home. My name is Mike Perna, local real estate agent. I've been helping families for over 20 years purchase and sell homes. If we can help you, we would be honored to receive that call. Number one, in the last video, we left off arming you with some mortgage knowledge. Now we're going to continue that. First, the PMI or MIP. This one I received the most questions on after last video. If you don't put at least 20% down with a conventional mortgage, the bank is going to require that you get private mortgage insurance or PMI. And that's basically insurance that protects the lender in case you end up not making your mortgage payments. And yes, you are paying to insure against your own foreclosure. That will probably never happen. Now, typically most people wait for the PMI to just automatically drop off 8 to 11 years later. Now, you don't need to wait 8 to 11 years for the PMI to automatically drop off. Once your mortgage balance reaches 78%, which means you have 22% equity in your home, your PMI must be removed by law. However, the mortgage companies are not going to do this automatically. Now, this is a little bit different for an FHA loan. You'll be required to pay what's called a monthly mortgage premium or MIP, which is very similar to the PMI on a conventional loan. And it's very critical that you understand that if you put down less than 10% on an FHA loan, the MIP will stay with you for the absolute lifetime of the loan. It will never go away. If you put down 10% or more on an FHA loan, the MIP will stay with you for 11 years. However, you can always refinance out of an FHA loan into a conventional loan to get rid of the MIP insurance, assuming that you have at least 20% down on a conventional loan. Number two, you don't need to refinance to get rid of your PMI. If you have an interest rate that's in the 2 or the 3s, you absolutely should not refinance because you cannot get that rate right now. Call or email me and ask about how to get out of the PMI without refinancing. We've helped dozens of our past clients yearly do this, and even if you're not a past client of ours, we offer this service and help navigating through this process for free. 2 reasons. First, I think that big companies have enough money right now based on some of the record earnings reports that I've been seeing in the news. Also, regular folks like you and I, we don't have record earnings reports as we have not seen the wage growth match inflation. They don't need the money, but with inflation where it is and wage growth over the last decade fairly flat, I'd rather you have every cent that you can get versus the companies. Second, my father taught me to always do the right thing, even without the expectation of anything in return. We have knowledge and skills to help, and we'd be honored to receive that call, past client or not. Now, if you haven't already, drop down and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm to help this video get out to more people that may need it. Subscribe to the channel, and doing both would mean the world to me. Thank you. Number 3, there are 5 basic types of mortgages. There are more, but these will cover about 98% of all people. There are conventional loans, and right now most conventional loans require around a 640 credit score or higher. If you're close, like in the 6s but not quite 640, call Credit Repair USA or Lexington Law to help get that score up. It may take a month or 2, but it is completely worth it because it will reduce your monthly payment. If not, FHA loans right now start at a 580 credit score. Yes, you can still get a loan, and you should, to use it to help boost your score and then flip into a conventional loan later. VA loans. These are actually great loans. If you have a VA certificate or have a parent or a family member that does, do not overlook it. It's actually the only loan that does not have mortgage insurance with down payments as low as 0, and there's one more bonus to these. If you have a VA loan now from when rates were in the 2s or 3s, it's the last loan left that's actually transferable. Recently, we had one of our sellers make an extra couple $1,000s on top of the sales price for the buyer to take over the loan. It was a win for everyone. The buyer got a lower payment than he would normally qualify for because rates had risen, and the seller got extra money for selling the loan to him. If you're in this situation and want to know more about this, give us a call. Next up are construction loans for new builds. There are a few banks out there that do this and do this very well, and they typically work in a 3-draw system, with draws happening over the course of the construction to fund the build. The highlight here is that the property is pre-appraised before being built, so there are no surprises or potential for a property appraisal coming in low. Watch our video on new construction down in the comments to deep dive into that process. Last, there are what's called doctor loans. A lot of doctors don't know about this, but doctors have loans specific to them in the medical field. They have lower interest rates and lower closing costs on a home than, frankly, I can get. If you can get it, use it. The goal here of Chase, Bank of America, Huntington, and others is to get your home mortgage while you're young and then get the rest of your loans over the course of your life. As you grow a practice, your building loan, your equipment loan, your revolving loan for creep-up expenses, your renovation loans, it's estimated that the value of loans of a doctor is in excess of $10 million over the lifetime of that person versus somebody like me, just a regular person at a little over $2 million over the course of my entire life. Any doctors watching this video, take advantage of the loans out there because frankly, I can't. Number 4, negotiations with the seller, and I'm going to keep this one simple. Nothing is off the table. Also, nothing should be assumed. When negotiations are done, the purchase agreement becomes the engine that drives the train of the real estate transaction, and you or your agent should be sure that everything is in there that you expect to see at closing. Don't assume that the stainless steel appliances in the kitchen were part of the home purchase. You may even assume that that beautiful chandelier in the dining room is part of the home purchase, but to your surprise, when you close on the home and you move in, you find a cheap LED light in its place. Be sure that everything is written into the purchase agreement. And also, don't be bashful when asking for furniture, lawn equipment, and I've even seen boats and cars involved in a sale. If the seller is going to a condo, let's say, or moving from Michigan to Arizona, they might not need that mower. And they might just throw it in because it's easier for them to just leave it than try to get rid of it. When people are buying homes, they forget that virtually everything is up for negotiation. Number 5. And I mean everything is negotiable. That being said, it's important to mention there are additional costs associated with getting a mortgage. Underwriting, closing fees, 1 year worth of taxes up front to fill the escrow account. All in all, closing costs and escrow accounts are around 2 to 6% of the sales price, bank and loan type dependent of course. Recently I bought a home and just added in last minute that the seller to pay 2% towards closing fees. They didn't say yes to 2%, but they did say yes to 1.5%. For me on this purchase, this kept about $6,000 in my pocket. I could have lowered the purchase price by that much, but all in all, it would have saved me around $1,200 on the down payment and $14 a month on the mortgage. Now this one's a rental, and that $6,000 went on to pay for new flooring as well as paint. In fact, you can negotiate the price down on a house, you can have sellers repaint walls or replace floors or pretty much do anything before you buy the house. And the worst thing that a seller can say if you ask is no. Number 6. When it comes to searching for a home to buy, what you absolutely should not do is turn down a home because of the cosmetics. Too many people I've watched pass up some really great homes that are priced really well because they're turned off by some simple cosmetic appearances like paint or carpet. If the living room is pink but you prefer it to be painted Oxford white, or perhaps the whole house has carpet and you prefer to have hardwood, I'm not saying don't buy or renovate a house, but there are definitely some deals out there on homes that need new kitchens or new bathrooms or new paint or new carpet. I'd rather see you get into a home where the seller's already put $30K into a new roof, new windows, new HVAC, and other mechanical updates, but is a little on the ugly side and needs new flooring, paint, or even a kitchen. Oftentimes I see people pass up homes where the sellers have put money into the mechanicals, but is still a little bit on the ugly side. Even having a professional painter in is going to be far less than a roof replacement. Number 7, home inspections. You should never under any circumstance waive the home inspection when you're buying a home. As hot as the market has been these past few years, some sellers are actually requiring you to waive the inspection. If you want to buy the house, that alone is a major red flag because if the seller has nothing to hide and they've taken care of the home for the past 20 years, they've done all the proper maintenance and they've been responsible with replacing things overall and just being good homeowners, then honestly, they've got nothing to worry about. However, if a seller has not been a responsible homeowner and they know the HVAC system is 30 years old and they know the roof is leaking or there are cracks in the ceiling because the foundation is shifting, then in that case, the seller has something to hide and they don't want you to inspect the home because they know the price that they're selling it for is not worth it based on the existing issues. And in most cases, depending on the size of the home inspections are going to cost you anywhere between $200 and $800. And that's going to sound like a lot of money, but considering that you can either spend a couple $100 on a home inspection or find a several $1,000 issue later on, go with the home inspection. Number 8, when you get a home inspection, there are going to be things that come up on every inspection. And if there aren't, fire the inspector and get a new one. That said, it doesn't mean the seller's trying to hide something. I remember as a kid, my dad, who's an electrician, used to check the attic for signs of mold or leaks every single year, paint or replace boards on the house every year, replace deck boards every year, and so on. And I'll be the first to admit the last time I went into my attic was when I had it inspected years ago. We just don't watch things like homes the way my dad did. And I'm not going to pretend to. Generally, most sellers are in the same boat and only notice something when it becomes a more expensive problem, not just an easy maintenance item. This is the other reason why people should get home inspections. Many owners, even though they live in their home, are oblivious in the day-to-day on a lot of it. I'm not trying to go negative on owners, just being honest. In fact, as an owner, I advise getting your home inspected once every 3 years like I do, at least the big stuff, to stave off more expensive repairs later on. Mold remediation can get super expensive, especially if it's just the case of insulation that's accidentally covering a bit of the roof ventilation that could have been moved. and instead 3 years of moisture is built up in the attic and molded over. Number 9. Don't just buy a home for today, consider the future carefully. When I bought my first home at 20 years old, I had very different needs than I had then in my late 20s, my mid 30s, and now 21 years after that first purchase, and you will too. Pre-2008, the average American moved every 6.5 years, or roughly each phase of their life. Today, the average American stays in their home for 13.8 years. Where were you 13 years ago? Where will life take you? What will it look like 13 years from now? If you don't already have littles, you might have littles. If they're very littles, they're going to become very bigs very quick. Americans have slowed the rate at which they move for one simple reason. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and it sucks. Okay, 3 reasons, but I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Every time you sell a home and buy a home, there's transfer tax and commission and closing costs with buying or selling all of it. If it's possible, envision where you believe you'll be not just 6 to 7 years from now, but 12 to 14. When you're looking for homes, do those homes match a 6 to 7 range or a 7 to 14 year out range? Now, if you could find a home that not only works for you in this phase of life, but the next phase of life, you're going to save a ton of cash by not having to do a double move, but also you're going to save a lot in taxes. In Michigan, taxes are capped yearly and raised slower, hence why an owner of a home for 30 years pays about a third of the person that just bought the one next door. And as time goes on, you're going to pay more principal later in the loan than at the start. So you're going to have more equity if you're able to skip a move. People ask me all the time, is it possible to plan ahead that far? It sure is. Warren Buffett bought his current home in 1958 for $31,500 or $258,000 in 2020 dollars. 64 years later, he is still there. One further consideration is, are you going to keep the home when you move to your next one? I still own my first home and knew that I could sacrifice a couple of my needs that were really wants at 20 to get something that would be a better rental. Now for 15 years, that property has been an income producing property for me, profiting in just rent income alone, not including appreciation or paying off the loan, $90,000. I've taken $90,000 in rents as income over the last 15 years, or it's paying about 1/3 of my current mortgage payment. Number 10, don't buy a home at all. This may sound like the oddest thing to know, especially coming from a real estate agent, but homeownership isn't for everyone, or at least not right now. And probably not the reason you're thinking, given the current recent economic turbulence. See, buying a home is almost always a sound financial investment. You get to deduct the mortgage interest, getting back thousands in taxes, you're building equity by paying off a loan, and over time, mortgages are always less expensive than rent, as rents go up an average of 5% per year, or over the last 3 years, 35%. Probably most importantly, it turns a place you sleep into a home, where you can really make it your own, create some memories, and raise a family. Now that said, if you fall into one of 3 buckets, it would be prudent to not buy a home. If you see a job transfer or taking a job out of town in the next 2 years or less, just keep renting. The cost of buying and then selling most likely is going to leave you in the negative financially, and even the 3 financial benefits of home ownership are just going to be wiped out. The second is if you're expecting a promotion, a large raise, or attaining another degree that will likely get you one. Typically for most people, those life events often coincide with other life events, marriage, kids, etc., and then your needs are going to change. If you see that happening in the next 2 years or less, you may as well wait versus go through all the aggravation of buying and then having to sell a home. Third is, you're just not ready. Now, there's no rule that says you have to own a home by 28 or 35 or frankly ever. I know a lot of people that just aren't ready to commit to being in a place for 3 years or more, and that's okay. Let yourself off the hook. Now, if you haven't already, dropped a like below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please do both those things. It would mean the world to me, and you guys are amazing. My name is Mike Perna, local real estate agent here in Metro Detroit, and I would be honored to help you and your family with your next home purchase and home sale. And I'm going to catch you on the next video. Make it a great day.